When I work with clients, I use the horse. They don't ride the horses. The horses are just there, and they're in the presence of the horse. And as I'm working with the client in a coaching sense, I'm looking at the horse for feedback. And by that, I mean their body language, a small twitch of their ear, or how they're reacting to the person that they're in the session with. So they act as a really amazing and intuitive feedback loop for me. So that is really because here's the thing, they don't lie and they don't judge you. Okay, so it's a really 1,200-pound mirror, right? So you're getting live feedback, because when we do talk coaching or talk therapy, people can sort of say what they want, and it may not be their true essence of what they're really trying to get to. And the horse is like in the background going, nope, 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 nope.
Hi, I'm Glennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe. We always talk about how midlife involves change. And we sometimes have talked about how to embrace that change. But I think that we can never have enough information or enough stuff in our toolkit. I talk about that toolkit all the time to kind of get us through the rough spots. I know that my experience when I was midlife, I don't know if I would be considered midlife now that I'm 67. That would mean I'd have to live to be 100 and what, 64 or something like that, or 34. So I don't know if that's good. But anyway, I was definitely a midlifer. I'm an honorary midlifer. And I know that it can be an exhilarating time, but it can be a confusing time. And today we have Sue Willoughby with us, who's going to be talking about how we can transform our life, and that 40 is a fantastic time, a great opportunity to really embrace the idea of radical personal change. Sue Willoughby is the no-nonsense founder of Willoughby Coaching, and she loves helping women over 40 to cut through their own BS and reclaim their lives through raw, honest power of Equus coaching. Which is really interesting. I hope I said that correctly. I know you work with horses. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get involved in using horses to help women feel more empowered about embracing change?
Yes, that's a great question. And I am actually right there with you with that midlife thing. I just turned 65, and I was thinking about that myself the other day. I'm like, oh my God, does that mean I have to live to be 130 or
Right,
whatever, whatever
exactly.
the math is on that?
I'm 67, and I'm like, or as I like to say sometimes, 3 years from 70. So there you go.
Oh, there you go. That's another way to look at it.
Really
Yeah.
paints a picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Equus coaching, I came to it as I come to many things in my life, just through a very circuitous route. I like to explore, and I'm always curious about life in general. And horses have been a constant thread for me since I was a kid, whether I had my own horse or whether I was, borrowing someone else's horse, or just the attraction to them and finding them as healing beings, which they are, incredibly intuitive and incredibly healing. And when I work with clients, I use the horse. They don't ride the horses. The horses are just there, and they're in the presence of the horse. And as I'm working with the client in a coaching sense, I'm looking at the horse for feedback. And by that, I mean their body language, a small twitch of their ear, or how they're reacting to the person that they're in the session with. So they act as a really amazing and intuitive feedback loop for me. So that is really because here's the thing, they don't lie and they don't judge you. Okay, so it's a really 1,200-pound mirror, right?
Wow.
So you're getting live feedback, because when we do talk coaching or talk therapy, people can sort of say what they want, and it may not be their true essence of what they're really trying to get to. And the horse is like in the background going, nope, 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 nope.
So they intuitively pick up on the person's energy and their emotions and all of that. So that must be a pretty, very, people have to be pretty getting used to the idea of being transparent. Maybe not in front of you, but definitely the animals picking up on things. So take
Mhm.
us through what a session is like. How do you come to the point where you're going to actually expose your client to the horse? How does that all work?
Yeah, that is a great question. And exposing yourself and being transparent is a huge part of it. So someone may come to me as a referral or just out of curiosity, or maybe, they've been in therapy or other coaching situations and they feel perhaps that they've hit a plateau or they just can't break through a certain thing. Or this may be their first, just out of curiosity, what's the deal with the horse thing? I get a lot of that. So when they come to me, and they've signed up for a session, I usually have a call ahead of time, sort of a discovery call to find out where they're at, what they want to work on, what things they need support around, because it really is that kind of a supportive environment. And then when I'm one on one with them, they will come to the barn where I work out of. I work out of a couple of places. I have my own horse and a couple of other horses at my stable, or I work with rescue horses at a rescue facility. So that's really fun too, because the horses get to be supportive in a way that they might not normally feel like they have a purpose as well, and that's important to them. And then they come and we may talk, we may have a little introduction with the horse. And once again, I go through, what is it in this session that you would like to work on or that you need support with? And a lot of times the intention that they initially set for the session is completely different from what we end up working on, because I'm getting immediate feedback from the horse. And that gives me the opportunity to ask really open ended questions and get their feedback on what they're seeing that the horse is doing. So the horse, they're in either a round pen with the horse, and the horse is at liberty, meaning that the horse is free to do whatever the horse wants to do. So if it wants to walk around, if it wants to roll on the ground, whatever it wants to do. And then I will show the client ways to interact with the horse, whether it's moving the horse or something I like to call advance and retreat, where they can approach the horse and then back off and try and make that connection with the horse in some way, which is also a great opportunity for me to observe how they're approaching the horse. And then I just let them, obviously there's a safety demonstration because I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable. And if they do, we may just start off with grooming. Maybe I'll have the horse on a lead rope and a halter, and I'll hold the horse and they can just sort of get used to being around something that large. Because honestly, I hear a lot that, oh, I'm so afraid of the horse, right? Because maybe they've had not a positive interaction with a horse, but also they're big and they are powerful. But the thing is that horses are prey animals. And I think people forget that when they're out in the wild, the essence of their being is survival. So they are constantly assessing their environment through all of their senses. They are giant sensing beings, right? They're, everything from hearing, sight, everything, smell. They like to sniff you when you come up to them. They'll extend their nose, and if you hold your hand out, they'll sniff you, kind of like a dog, right?
Mhm.
So they use all of their senses to build their awareness of their safety in their environment. They're also herd animals, which means that they rely on each other and the ability to read what their herd mates are doing and how, like, if someone else is sensing danger. So when they're with another person or persons or horses or whatever, you become part of their herd. So they're going to look to you and read you. They can sense your heart rate, they can sense your respiration. So they really know what's going on inside, whereas we tend to live up in our heads a lot. So they will sense what's really going on inside you and act accordingly. So they will
Hmm.
know if, you're putting up a front, which we all do, and know if they feel safe or not. So I'm watching the person interacting with the horse on the ground. There's no riding. And I'm watching what the horse is doing. And it gives me the opportunity to then ask questions about their initial, that they wanted to accomplish, right? Whatever they
Hmm.
wanted to take away from the session. And then it just gives me the opportunity to just open up the door and say,
Hmm.
okay, so what are you sensing from the horse right now? And then,
Hmm.
I don't know, the horse is on
And
the other side of,
supposedly the horse is reflecting what it
yeah.
is that they're really feeling.
Hmm. So, for example, if the horse is on the other side of the arena and not interacting with the person at all,
Hmm.
it could mean that they don't feel safe. It could just mean that they're being a horse, right? But people will
Hmm.
project their interpretation of what the horse is doing.
Hmm.
For example, the horse doesn't like me.
Right, right,
The horse is
exactly.
bored. I love that one. The horse is bored.
And
Really?
that could be really actually maybe they're bored, maybe
Yeah.
bored with their life or bored with who they are.
It
I
can be
see.
any of those things. It can be, with the whole thing, like the horse is bored with me, right? The horse is doesn't want to come near me, doesn't want to interact with me. It doesn't like me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you're
Interesting.
like,
And that could be how
okay,
they're
that
feeling.
opens up a whole new, can of
Right.
worms. Like, okay, let's talk about that.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things you talk about is that midlife is a ideal time to make some radical transformations. Well, it's pretty radical already, the idea of getting feedback from a horse to determine what's going on with you. But in particular, why do you think it is that midlife is probably the best time to make radical change?
I think that any time in our life is time for radical change, but midlife especially, because for women, and I do predominantly work with women, is that they have come to a point in their life where they're at usually some sort of a crossroad. Maybe they're experiencing, empty nesting. Their kids are, away at college all of a sudden, and what their identity is wrapped around, or wrapped with, or connected with, it may be a job that is going nowhere, and they don't, but it is their identity, and I think a lot of women, their identity is wrapped around what they're doing, whether
Mhm.
it's raising a family, whether it's a certain career, and they just get to a point where they either feel like they don't have value anymore, or they don't know what that value is, and they don't know how to get beyond their identity that was tied up in something else. So it's it's fun to help them crack that open and find that new space to grow or change, or just find that they have all of this experience, all of this amazing
Mhm.
life
Yes.
experience that they don't know what to do with, or that they don't realize that they have. Like, well, I've just been raising a family for the past 20 years or 30 years or whatever.
Well,
It's like,
we
that's
kind of
all.
we lose ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And women have a tendency to be outer directed when it comes to approval and all of that. And one way to look at it, because I've thought about this myself, I have four daughters. They're all adults now. And they all left home at different times, but they came back, not here to live with me and my husband, but to get their own places. So I had three of them here with me. And then one who never did come back. She lived in DC for a long time, then relocated to Florida. So, and she would always come back three or four times a year, and then we would go to see her. So it didn't seem that bad. But then what happened was one of my daughters got married and moved to Texas. Another daughter got married and moved to Las Vegas. Then all of a sudden, the delayed reaction of the empty nest syndrome really hit me. I still had one that was here, but she's busy with her fiance looking for a house to build here, and she's got a really successful career and all that. Now, granted, the youngest is 32 and the oldest is going to be 40 next week. So they're not like in their 20s, okay? But I had a delayed reaction because so much of my at a girl validation was tied up in their lives. And so now that they're gone, it's kind of like, wow, what do I do? And of course, I have a very active business, a very active life, but I've always felt that the best thing I've ever done in my life was my kids. So now that they're gone, it's like, wow, I can't even look at them and say, wow, that's great for validation. Then I thought, okay, I'm doing the exact same thing that so many women do, is putting their sights on validation that's outside of themselves instead of
Mm.
counting on what's going on the inside for validation.
Yeah, exactly. And how did you deal with that?
Well, it's interesting. I'm still dealing with it. First of all, I was transparent with them about it in terms of how I was feeling, because they didn't have a clue. They thought I had already gone through this, 15 years ago when the first one left, or 20 years ago when the first one left. Shoot, more than that. She was 18 when she left, and she's almost 40. So do the math. 22 years ago. And, they thought that I had already gone through this, but not only when they did they leave, but they had grandchildren too. So, it was a double whammy. My grandson, he's 18, he's still here going to college, but he's 18 in college, working, doing his thing. So I had to really sit down and talk with myself and kind of reassess my value in terms of just being a mother. What else am I valuable at? And when and I go back and I look at that part of my journal just to reinforce that, because I have to kind of unlearn what I say would say was kind of like stinking thinking that the only thing I've ever done that was good was my kids. Because the reality is I've done a lot of things while raising them. And just that alone is really an amazing thing. Some of the things that I've done while raising four kids, I look back and I still don't know. And they're all close together in age. I still don't know how I did that. I never thought much about it. But now that they're gone, I am thinking about it. And I'm using that to say, yes, they are one of the best things that you ever did. But the reality is the skills and things that you had to put together to do that, that's what ultimately is pretty amazing. And you can apply those skills to whatever else it is that you're doing, which is really interesting because raising four children was like being in a boot camp of multitasking. So as an entrepreneur, that's what it's all about. So it was no big deal. Like, okay, I know what this is like. Crazy, but I get it. It's my place of security. So that's kind of how I was able to transcend, but it really hit me kind of hard. Not so much the empty nest syndrome, but the fact that I was feeling like this so much later after the first one had left home. So, looking back at that, it really makes me even more aware of the myriad of feelings that we go through during this part of our lives. And one of the things I told myself was I need to be transparent. So when you were talking about the horse, I thought, what a great tool, because they can maybe fool you, but they can't fool the horse. And in order to figure out what's going on with you, you have to arrive at some place of transparency. So I'm
Mhm.
wondering if that might be one of the reasons why it's so impactful with the horses.
Yeah, I love all of that you just said. And that's so spot on with what women go through. And, like I said, the emotional changes, the physical changes, the delayed reaction, that was really amazing. And yes, the horses can tune into all of that. And the other thing about being with the horses that I bring into is the whole somatic aspect of it. So when I talked earlier about all of us being in our heads, right? We're processing all of this stuff in our head, but our bodies are also processing a lot of stuff because everything that has happened to us lives in our bodies somewhere, right? At the
The body
cellular
keeps the
level.
score.
It
Absolutely.
does. Absolutely. So it's really important to kind of bring that back into the picture, bring that back into the realization of what when you're having this reaction, because horses will bring up some powerful reactions or some powerful emotions. I've had people just basically walk into the space with the horse and start crying. Everything just sort of opens up because the horses have this really interesting energy sphere, and that you can't ignore. It's very powerful, it's very intuitive, and for some women they feel like maybe this is the first time they're actually being seen in a way that not just on the outside, but also on the inside.
Ladies, are you ready to vibe your life? The V.I.B.E Wellness Woman Network is your go-to space for holistic health, empowerment, and community, created just for women over 40. Inside, you'll find expert-led workshops, wellness challenges, and exclusive coaching, and a sisterhood that supports your journey to being vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered. Join today and get access to fitness tips, spiritual renewal, menopause support, and more, all designed to help you thrive in midlife and beyond. Visit the VibeWellnessWomanNetwork.com and start your journey to wellness today. That can be a pretty wow experience, because I was just thinking about this the other day when I was interviewing somebody else on the podcast. We have our besties that we talk to and our family that we talk to, and maybe our workmates that we talk to. But there's always a certain part of us, in most cases of women, who don't talk to anybody about that piece.
Mhm.
And I would imagine that might be the very piece that the horse picks up on or reflects, because we do not. There's so many things that we don't share in
Yeah.
comparison to what we do, even to those who are closest to us. And so much of that has to do with that outer directed need of approval. And if I say this, they're going to think, how could you think that? Or how could you do that? Or whatever. And so we just don't. And the thing that's really interesting about that, not allowing ourselves to expose that and eradicate it and get it out, is that it shows up in different ways later on. I think it's one of the reasons why our country is so sick right now. I'm not talking so much emotionally, although that probably is true too. But physically, COVID hit us so hard
Yeah.
because of the pace within which we live our lives. And the fact that we're always supposed to present, I got it together front, and not let that slip. And it wreaks havoc over time with our immune system. And we
Mm.
don't really know that our immune systems have been that compromised. Yeah, we're getting colds, maybe quite a bit. Flus, I mean, now so much that we have shots for them. Makes you want to think, why is that? But no preparation for an unknown assailant to come in and make us sick, because our immune system wasn't prepared for that. We hadn't been exposed to it, and everything just fell apart. And I think that it was more than symbolic. I think it was really a real reflection of what's really going on with us in this country when it comes to tapping in, digging deep, peeling back the layers, and finding out what's really eating us.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, the pandemic didn't just hit us on a physical level. It didn't just cause sickness, it caused emotional upheaval.
Yes.
It, caused isolation and all of these things that we just didn't know how to deal with. And then coming out of the pandemic was this really interesting rehumanization, I call it, where we had to almost like learn how to interact with each other again. I mean, we're so, we weren't hugging, we weren't touching, we were, social distancing and all this weird stuff that we're like,
And
hi,
we're still coming out of that. We're still coming
yes.
out of that. You're still like, when you see somebody like, is it okay if I?
Mm,
And some people say yes, people are like, well, no, it's okay. Then you begin to feel, oh, is it me? Oh, I'm not sick. All these other dynamics
yeah.
that we weren't ever really dealing with, plus the stuff that we never did deal with. And I think that, it appeared on a certain level that we came back just like that. Our economy
Mm,
came back over time, and, that, everybody's gone back to work or working from home or whatever. But I don't think so.
yeah. It was interesting. I will just tell you this really quick story. I was in real estate and of course that all shut down. And I was like, oh, I see an ad here. I'm going to go drive an Amazon delivery truck during the pandemic, like early on. And it was interesting. I mean, first of all, people had no contact with the outside world. So everybody was ordering everything on Amazon. And literally, I felt like the ice cream truck, I would drive down the streets and people were literally waiting in their driveways, if they were in houses, for you to come and like, they're like, ah, yay, a person bringing me cool stuff. There was that. And then, if you're delivering to like an apartment complex, that was weird because everybody was totally shut in their apartments, so you'd put the package down in the door with like creak open and be like Gollum, reaching out, give me the package, So it was weird. It was just seeing some of those different interactions. And I think, I felt like pretty fortunate. I had my own home. I could walk around my neighborhood pretty freely. I wasn't trapped in an apartment or a condo or something else. But yeah, yeah, we're still coming out of it. Honestly, I mean, we think that everything's back to normal, but yeah, it's not.
Not really. I think that our whole reaction, during this election cycle is all, convoluted into the fact that we still have a lot of healing to do.
Yes.
There's still a lot of hurt. And then you take into consideration those midlife women who were going through all of that at that time, trying to keep their families together. And meanwhile,
Yeah.
their hormones are all over the place, and all the kids are at home, and husbands at home, and people are working from home, going to school from home. You've got to cook and do all these things. And you're going through your own emotional things and no fault of your own because your body is changing. I was very busy during the pandemic season with anxiety, depression, obesity prevention for some
Right.
people, other obesity, just a plethora of issues that people were trying to deal with. But now that we are at a place where we're trying to move forward and looking for, in some cases, people are looking for some solutions to heal
Mhm.
from what they're doing. Why would you think that working with horses would be particularly good for someone coming out of something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, well, for me and how they've helped me, horses are really good at helping you build self awareness because they are so present in their own bodies and in their own space that it helps us have a better understanding of what is inside of us. Once again, coming back into your body, understanding, being able to say, oh, okay, I'm feeling this emotion or that I'm experiencing this thing. Where do I feel it in my body? Is it something that I recognize or that I can recognize that is when you're triggered or there's something else that you're making a decision? What comes up for you in your body? Do you feel it in your gut? Do you feel it like a tingling sensation? Is it tightness in your chest? So that you can start to be aware of when these things come up for you. Oh, okay, I can take a step back and be more observational rather than reactionary
Mhm.
without just, boom, exploding in anger or anxiety or whatever. How can I be more aware of that? So I think awareness is one thing. Being more grounded is another thing, and that once again brings you back into your body. And then how we communicate, because horses are nonverbal, obviously. I mean, you can talk a blue streak to your horse, right? I do. I talk to my horse all the time and he's like, yeah, whatever. But being more conscious and aware of how we're communicating with others nonverbally, because it's really important how we our body language, our how we convey messages verbally, and then also the nonverbal piece of a verbal conversation is really important. And also patience. Horses are very patient and
Mm.
they will let you know if they're not getting a clear message. So if
Mm.
you are asking a horse to do something, whether it's move or whatever it is, they will wait and they'll be like, that's not quite right. Can you tell me a different way? And you kind of go, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm not being clear. So they can really help you with your communication skills as well, and timing and all of those things. So it really helps you peel back the layers and then also helps you figure out what is effective and what's not effective, how you can change your reactions to things, to yourself and to others. So it's a beautiful thing.
That's amazing. Now, I know we're on a podcast and we're talking virtually. Do you work with people virtually as well?
I
Or
do. Yes.
okay, and where is the horses? What part of the country are you in?
I'm in Washington State,
Oh,
up near in the Seattle area. And I also do retreats in various locations, California. If somebody wanted to organize a themed retreat or a corporate retreat, I can go anywhere because I can work with any horse. It's not like I have to work with my horses or horses that I know. So I can really work anywhere, but I do work virtually. I bring so much of the intuition that I have. I feel part horse sometimes.
Mhm.
Bring the intuition of the horses into my online coaching as well. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, guys, you heard it. I know we never thought we would be talking about this, but I guess you could say that Sue Willoughby is a midlife horse whisperer for people who want to experience true transparency and growth in their overall emotional wellness, especially during the midlife years. It's been wonderful having you here today. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that on her show page, she's got a free midlife makeover that you can download. It's a 5-day challenge, and she does do things virtually. So take a look at her website and her social media and all the wonderful things that she is up to. Sue, thank you so much for being on the Vibe Living podcast. It's been really not just wonderful having you here, but wow, another key learning for me, something brand new again that I've learned today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my my horsiness with with your
You're
listeners.
welcome. You're welcome. And thank you to all of you who've been listening. I know there's so many podcasts out there, and thank you for making us one of the top wellness podcasts. You know, we're in the top 10% of all podcasts recorded in the world, and that's because of you. Thank you so much for downloading. And if this podcast is something that resonates with you, please like it, maybe make a comment, and share it with someone else that you care about who you think would be helpful. And take a look at all of the other podcasts that are on here. We are recording this in 2024. And so far at this point, I think I've done 105 podcasts that I've actually edited, but there's probably like another 25 in the hole. So keep coming back. We have new episodes every week. And listen, if you're interested in the whole idea of midlife makeover and growth and really leveraging your experience in midlife where you're really operating in optimum, consider visiting the V.I.B.E Wellness Woman Network. That is my site and is a network of wellness and health professionals who have over 300 years of experience combined working with women over 40 to help them to vibe, to be more vibrant, more intuitive, beautiful, and empowered. We have blogs, podcasts, we have workshops, we also have online courses and challenges. Just go and check it out. It's absolutely free to go to the workshops and to listen to the podcast. And if you want to actually have access to all the workshop replays, sign up for a 7-day trial and take a look, get a chance to go to the membership site and see all the things that we offer. Again, that's vibewellnesswoman.com. And you can find it also on the show page there. Just click there and, give us a visit. I'd love to see you there. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Have a fantastic day and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Vibe Living Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.